Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to Clarksville's Political Forum. I'm Van Stokes, your moderator for today's session, and on behalf of Leadership Clarksville and your Clarksville Area Chamber of Commerce, we're glad you could join us today. As always, this forum is intended to give you, the voters, an informed choice when you go to the polls on November the 6th. Once again, today's forum is coming to you from the facilities of the Mass Communications Department here on the campus of Austin Peay State University. Today, we're going to have the opportunity to talk with the candidates who will be on the ballot for the Tennessee House of Representatives District number 67. They are Mr. John Dawson, Mr. Jason Hodges, and Mr. Tommy Vallejos. Now, in a moment, they will each have 2 minutes in which to present opening comments from their seats at the table. Following opening remarks, we will then turn to our panelists for questions. Joining us once again are our panelists, Mr. J. Albritton, Mr. Lee Irwin, and Mr. Jimmy Settle. Now, each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to each question. Responses will be given in a rotating order. At the conclusion of the questioning, each candidate will then have 2 minutes in which to present a closing statement. Closing statements will be presented in reverse order of the opening comments. Our timekeeper for this session is Ms. Yvonne Pickering. The Tennessee House of Representatives is composed of 99 members who are elected to 2-year terms of office by the voters of their House legislative districts. And as we said, this is District 67. Now, in general, the functions of the legislature are to enact, amend, and repeal the laws of Tennessee. Some of the specific powers granted to the General Assembly by the state constitution include the appropriation of all money to be paid out of the state treasury, the levy and collection of taxes, and the right to authorize counties and incorporated towns to levy taxes on their own. The Tennessee House of Representatives annually contends with ongoing budget issues that are affected by these times of, relative economic uncertainty. Statewide economic growth, unemployment, safety, transportation, health care, education, and the welfare of the state are just a few of the areas that receive legislative attention. Let's go now to our candidates for their opening comments. We will hear first from Mr. John Dawson.
Thank you, sir. My name is John Dawson, and I am running as your independent candidate for Tennessee House District 67. I would like to thank God, my wife and family, Clarksville Chamber of Commerce, Leadership Clarksville, and the people of Clarksville for this opportunity. My wife and I have been married for 28 years and have been blessed with a wonderful son who is currently in the Air Force and a daughter that recently transitioned from the U.S. Army. I proudly served for 20 years in the U.S. Army and retired here at Fort Campbell in 2007. Currently, I'm working as a program analyst, performing in-depth data research and strategy planning. I do not have a political background in which to resort to, but feel that this endeavor is a true calling to the people of our community and to the state, which should be performed at the best of anyone's abilities. The people are the ones that hire us as their representatives at all levels and should have an unbiased voice. With that, I want to represent the people through integrity, serving and performing for them, holding family values in highest esteem. We, as a state and community, must work together to make this happen. And that is the only way we can make this happen. It would be great and most humbling to honor and serve this community as the District 67 representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear opening comments from Mr. Jason Hodges.
Good afternoon. I'm Jason Hodges. I'm the Democratic nominee for District 67 State Representative. And I also want to thank the Chamber and Leadership Clarksville for hosting this event. And thank Austin Peay State University for allowing us to have it here. And thank you to the people of Clarksville for listening and give us an opportunity to speak to you. So just a little bit about myself. I'm here from Clarksville. I graduated from Northeast High School. I also graduated here from Austin Peay State University. Prior service Marine Corps. I've been married to my wife, Diana, for going on 16 years. We have a daughter, Sage, 15, and a son, Lance, 11. And why I'm running, Representative Joe Pitts called me and told me he was planning on retiring and wanted me to think about running for his seat. And I thought about it and prayed on it and talked to my family about it. And, having served on the county commission, we've seen the problems that we have in this community, and a lot of it is really state level problems, concerns with infrastructure, concerns with education funding. And so I thought about that and thought we needed somebody to go to the state and really represent the community and push for what's important in the community. And so I decided to take on that task of running for office, and I hope to get to know everybody that's listening and the constituents of this community, and really get to learn what you want, and hope I can serve you. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we will hear opening comments from Mr. Tommy Vallejos.
Hello, I just want to say thank you so much to the Clarksville Chamber. I've been a part of the Chamber participating in the Military Affairs Committee, traveling 5 times with them to speak on behalf of the citizens of Fort Campbell, advocating for the causes. Also, I'm very thankful for Austin Peay. I was nominated and selected and appointed by the previous President, Tim Hall, to serve on the circle of advisors to the President, and currently serve in that position with the current President, Elisa White. I also serve on the board for the Hispanic Culture Center. I've done so for 10 years. And of course, I am a graduate of leadership, Clarksville, class 2012, the best class ever. I'm a retired military. I've been retired for 17 years now. I served on the county commission for over 8 years and served 7 years of that time on the budget committee. I've been a pastor for over 30 years, ministering the gospel across the region and across the world. I've been married for 36 years. And of those 36 years, we've had 4 children. All 4 are products of the school system here. I currently have 7 grandchildren, 4 in the school system, 1 that will graduate next year. I have a vested interest in the community. And for over 19 years, I've been teaching gang awareness all across this region, way before I ever got into politics. I care. I've helped folks come and get off all kinds of addictions. 12 years ago, I partnered with a local pastor to fight for a homeless shelter called Safe Harbor. Nobody wanted it, but today it's there. I've helped mentor many young men trying to get off gang awareness through my gang awareness program, and not every one of them survived. But I wanted you to know something. I want you to come on a journey with me. See, I want to live your dream. I'm humbled to represent you. As a county commissioner, I did it, and I want to do it as a state representative. My name is Tommy Vallejos, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
And thank you very much, gentlemen, for those opening comments. We will now turn to our panelists for questions. We will begin with Mr. Jimmy Settle. His question will be responded to first by Mr. John Dawson.
Thank you. Mr. Dawson, of course, you're an independent candidate, but generally state races are generated by political parties that produce nominees, as your 2 opponents represent their 2 respective parties. Do you feel like, if elected, you can work well with legislators from both sides of that aisle, as well as any other independents that might be in the legislature, and the governor, for that matter?
Absolutely. As an independent, there should be no reason which we cannot work together as a whole. It should be an unbiased voice that represents the people for this community and the state.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hodges?
Yeah, so as the Democratic nominee, I think that, we have to work for our community. We have to work for our constituents. And so party really isn't important when you're there if you're serving the people. And so you have to reach across the aisle. I sat on a county commission for 4 years where the majority of that commission, they were Republicans, and every resolution that I sponsored passed. And I'm proud of that. I think that I showed I can work with the Republican Party or anybody that's willing to work to make life better for our community.
Mr. Vallejos.
Well, thank you so much for that question. As I've gone across this community and knocked on doors and talked to everybody, I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, I want to be their voice. And because of that, I value being that voice for everybody, regardless of parties. And I know that that's the thing I would do at the state. I've worked at the state, being the president of the Tennessee County Commission Association. I spoke on behalf of them and went in lobby to all of those involved. As a matter of fact, it was Joe Pitts who invited me in 2006 to go and hold devotionals, and later on I would become the president. And so I've been involved, I've been engaged. I know many of those representatives up there from across the aisle, so I've worked with them on different issues, and many of them have asked me to come and speak at their churches, come and speak at their districts, and sure, I can work with them all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lee Irwin, you have the next question, and it goes to Mr. Jason Hodges for the next answer.
Mr. Hodges, in the opening statements, all three of you gentlemen talked about your qualifications, but two-part question here. What qualifies you for an office in state government, and quite simply, why should people vote for you?
Thanks. So first of all, I served 4 years on the county commission, and so I understand the legislative branch and what's required. I also studied political science here at Peay State University, and I work for the school system as an operations manager. So I really get to see the needs of one of my focus items, which is education. I see the needs in the classroom, that the things the teachers are going through, and how they really need more resources from the state. I understand our community needs more resources from the state when it comes to helping us build schools because of the amount of growth we're going through. So I think just all that really does qualify me to be a representative, and I hope you believe so too.
Mr. Vallejos.
Thank you so much. Well, I've done a lot of things. Prior to ever getting involved in politics, I was serving on and appointed to the state DMC task force, the Disproportionate Minority Contact Team, fighting for those that were minorities that were unfairly kicked out of schools, and got involved in the Tennessee Youth Commission. Not only that, I served on the JPEG committee, which issued funding all across the state at one time, over $5 million. And I was able to serve on that too, on various capacities. I also, like I said, was the president of the Tennessee County Commission Association. And I lobbied and I spoke on behalf, make sure no unfunded mandates were passed down to the counties. And I've represented all 95 counties. And so I feel I'm more than qualified. I'm also continuing to learn. I always have an old adage that you all got to be teachable. And if you're not teachable, then maybe you shouldn't be there. I'm teachable.
Mr. Dawson.
Qualifications for this position is one of our rights as a citizen of the state. We should be able to take that step forward. As I said, I have no political background in this. I did serve with the military for over 20 years. I've been with the same company for 10 doing data research and strategic planning. This takes into account a lot of learning, but putting the practical applications in many occurrences we can read with no problem, but putting a practical application needs to be something that we have a fresh look on. The same political fight that we continue to have is causing divide. We need to change this. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. J. Albertia for the next question, and that response will come first from Mr. Tommy Vallejos.
Mr. Vallejos, if elected, each representative and senator gets 15 bills to put up every year. Going in and saying that you're elected, what would be the first bill that you would introduce?
I'm glad you said that. There's a bill that that is near and dear to my heart. I've been doing prison ministry for many years, and one of the things I've seen is how the have-nots have not been able to progress, and I've seen the imprisoned get in there and the recidivism rate raise above records. And so what I would like to do is introduce a bill called the Justice to Journeyman Bill, where if you're incarcerated, it's not a heinous crime, that you get an opportunity while you're in there and get some education, get a high school diploma, maybe a GED, and then get a skill set. That skill set gets you, if you forget, you finish the program, then you'll come out. And then also right after that, we do an expungement bill, because many of these guys and gals are not given that opportunity. And I think it's unfair that so many are succeeding in our economy, but those who don't even got a chance to vote or participate in the economy need to provide for the families. I want to provide that bill. I partnered with Matt Blevins, of the governor of Kentucky. I've talked to him. It's a successful bill there, and that will be the first bill, because I think everybody needs a second chance.
Mr. Dawson.
It's a tough question. There are so many out there that need to be looked at and reformed within our state, within our federal government. Me personally, immigration is one of our biggest ones for me. There needs to be loopholes closed. I have no problem with legal immigration whatsoever. It should be a legal status that you have achieved. There should be no special privileges given to any one certain group, and it does not matter where they are from in the world. We need to close those loopholes, identifying why the loopholes are there, what's drawing the people to close them. Thank you.
Mr. Hodges.
Yes, so I think one thing that we desperately need to change at the state level is the infrastructure formula for giving counties money. If you look at right now, the state gives counties road dollars, infrastructure funding based on the size of their county, the geographic size, and the population of their county. And the problem with that is growth isn't factored in. And you have fast-growing communities like ours that desperately need those resources. You know, a large geographic county or even a high-populated county that's stagnant in population doesn't necessarily need the same amount of funding because they're not widening their roads, they're not building new roads, they're just repaving the roads they already have. So I think we desperately need to get that formula changed and add growth to help communities like ours that are growing at a high speed.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to Mr. Jimmy Settle for the next question, and that will be directed to Mr. John Dawson.
Thank you. Mr. Dawson, one of the most talked about pieces of state legislation over the past 4 years has been the IMPROVE Act, and with it there is funding appropriated for road projects that have been sitting on the drawing board for a long, long time, as you know. Would you strive to speed up the timeline to complete some of these road projects from one end of the state to the other, and of course the ones that are being considered in Montgomery County? And at the same time, do you think it will become increasingly important to put a cap on the gas tax?
It would be most beneficial to our state as a whole to prioritize these road projects. Dealing with our region here, we have a very heavy infrastructure problem. No one can deny that. The roads need to be sped up to have a better resolve for getting our traffic moving. We have numerous state roads within our county. State funding comes with that. Our cities needs to help with that, and county needs to help with that. As far as the tax on that, I do not encourage raising taxes whatsoever on any of it. That cap should be held where it should be right now, if anything.
Mr. Hodges?
Yes, so being on the county commission, we actually encourage the state to pass that IMPROVE Act because of our concerns, our infrastructure concerns, as I just discussed in my last question. I pushed the state hard to expand Trenton Road, expand Warfield. You know, we see the congestion in Clarksville, and all those roads that the congestion's on are generally state routes. So we desperately need the state to speeden up and really help us out. And as far as putting a cap, I don't think you can ever put a cap on it. We may be in this similar situation 10 years from now. We just don't know. So I think it'd be irresponsible to put a cap on anything, really. Thanks.
Mr. Vallejos, your thoughts?
Well, I think that the IMPROVE Act has been very favorable for us, but I also think this. 4 years ago, I was asked to represent the mayor at a forum as a mayor pro tem speaking to the governor, and I approached him along with similar of the issues that were pertaining to our community. Here's what we know is we don't need no more studies. We need action. So many of the roads that run through us are state runs. So I know that the city has provided funding for the widening of Trenton. We also need an exit, between exit 4 and exit 8. We need to begin to plan ahead, start widening 24. There's so much planning as we continue to grow. We know that within the coming years, we're going to surpass Chattanooga, and we need a plan now. And yes, if I got on there, I would push the issue and I would ask them, stand with me as we grow to be the 4th largest city. If we don't do nothing, we'll be behind the power curve. The RTA is not all the answer. We need to widen the lanes and move the traffic along.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lee Irwin, your question goes to Mr. Jason Hodges.
Mr. Hodges, of course, roads, infrastructure, an issue on everyone's mind, but what other issues, say one or two, are specific to the 67th District, and any ideas you have to address those issues?
Sure. You know, our speaking of growth would be one major one in the growth we're seeing in our school system right now. You know, we're growing between 600 and 1,200 students a year. And so 1,200 student elementary school costs us about $22 million. A middle school costs us $40 million, a high school about $60 million. So if we're growing at 600 to 1,200 students a year, we're needing an elementary school every other year. Our local property taxpayers, they just can't keep up with that. We have got to get the state to help us on the front end. We desperately need the state to help us start funding building these new schools and just keeping up with that, because this growth that we're seeing in Clarksville is going to benefit the entire state. So they need to help us on the front end.
Mr. Vallejos.
Well, I think the things that are really hurting is affecting every family across this city. That's our opioid addiction. We lost last year 1,776, the year of the founding of our country. Every day, 3 people die of opioid overdose. Today, 42 are going through overdose here in our county, and 60 Narcan administered doses are given to the people here in Montgomery County. I want to address that. I want to get the faith-based community involved. We provide a lot of answers. The governor provided a program together, but right now, listen, we got to get involved. There's too many families that are hurting, and I want to find an answer, and the answer is the faith-based community. And I also believe that we got to educate. And I know this, that people are losing their children, losing their families, and losing their husbands. I want to be the one that provides that answer. I did it through my shelter 12 years ago, and today 350 men and women get on buses and vans 3 times a day through a program called Faith Works. I believe I got an answer. I'm out there. Thank you.
And Mr. John Dawson.
As both of my constituents here have said, we do have some issues that we need resolve on, be it our school systems, be it the opioid addictions nationwide. We as a community need to come together and get the input from all of our community, not just our opinions, not the party's opinions, but the people that we are representing. We have areas of town that need better improvement. We have roads that need to be improved. So we need to take the time and listen to the people out there and make this happen for them. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're correct about that. Plenty of issues out there to be addressed. Mr. J. Alberta, you have the next question, and it goes to Mr. Tommy Vallejos for the first response.
Mr. Vallejos, this is the time of elections and a lot of propositions being put on a lot of state ballots. A couple of those are sanctuary cities, and as well as legalizing recreational marijuana. On these 2 issues that are hitting a lot of ballots on states right now, what is your opinion about these 2 issues?
Well, let me just tell you first, Sanctuary Cities bill has already been settled. I had a nonprofit called Latinos for Tennessee, a statewide organization. And this simply was to prevent what's happening in California. We don't need it here. We don't need what's happening. We need to allow our federal officials access to the courts, access to those who are criminal aliens. You know, if anybody should be affected, I'm a Latino and I'm proud. You know, I eat my tacos and my enchiladas, but I'm an American first. And I'm proud to tell people that. So it's about protecting the American community and protecting Clarksville. And I believe that the sanctuary bill that we helped endorse through my organization, Pastor Jay Reedy and Senator Green. And so it's about protecting America. And that's an important issue for me, and I will stand with it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dawson?
Sanctuary cities should not be at all. There is no reason for it. As Mr. Vallejos just made the comment, this is about protecting our communities, our people here. If we want to do it legally, then let's make it that way. Come in legally. They do not need to take that away from us, from the federal government side. Let the federal government have the access. Support them. As far as the medical marijuana and recreational marijuana, The recreational marijuana I do not support at this time. There is not enough research out there to prove that it's any benefit for anyone. Thank you.
Mr. Hodges.
As far as sanctuary cities, we don't actually have any in Tennessee, so I don't think there's really a debate there. When it comes to medical marijuana, I support medical marijuana 100%. I don't believe in telling a doctor what he should prescribe to his patient. We were having an opiate epidemic that my opponent just talked about, and we're arguing about medical marijuana. So I do believe that we should pass that. And as far as recreational marijuana, you know, I think it's something that we should talk about at the legislature, and I think we need to have a serious discussion about it, and several other states have done it, and we need to take a look and study what benefits and have come out of those states and see the issue from there.
Thank you very much. If you have just joined us, you are watching Clarksville's Political Forum. We're meeting today with candidates who will be on the ballot November the 6th for the Tennessee State House of Representatives from District number 67. They are Mr. John Dawson, Mr. Jason Hodges, and Mr. Tommy Vallejos. We've got time for another round of questions from each of our panelists, so let's go back to Mr. Jimmy Settle if we can. Your question will go to Mr. Dawson.
Mr. Dawson, with respect to economic development, jobs, and industry, from LG to Google and Hanguk and perhaps more, we know that none of this would happen without state and local governments putting some skin in the game in the form of incentives, roads, and tax breaks. Do you think we need to do more in this regard, or are we already doing too much, as some critics often suggest?
Mr. Settle, thank you for the question. Every town is going to grow, no matter what it is. There has to be a balance maintained within that community, within the people, keeping them happy, to preserve their way of life as the economic development. If people want the better jobs, then we're going to have to grow. If they don't want the better jobs, then we're going to have to travel outside of our community, which is not what we want. We want our families to stay within our community. That balance is extremely hard to keep with the growth that we're having at such a fast rate. That is what we have to watch and we have to plan for, not just be reactive but proactive in that planning. Thank you.
So having served on the county commission, I see what the IDB's done for us, and you know, they do have to offer incentive-based packages to bring these companies. We're in a globalized market, and we're not just competing with cities in Kentucky, we're competing with cities in Korea and Germany and Japan. So they do have to offer incentives, and I'll completely continue to support that because I think it's good for our community. But I also think we need to hold them accountable. You know, if we have a factory that we offer incentives to that says they're going to pay $17.50 an hour to their employees, we need to ensure they're paying that, and not that they come here and pay $10.50, because the incentives are based on that. So we need to hold them accountable. Thank you.
Mr. Vallejos.
Well, I see that as we continue to grow and the industry should continue to come, we have yet to even see the total hiring of LG and Atlas batteries coming in. Years ago, when we brought Hemlock here, we offered them an incentive package, and when it didn't come to fruition and they closed it, I was on the advisory board for Hemlock. And you know, we had to make sure at the very end that one of the incentives was that they would pay their end of the tax deal, and they did. So we as a local government on the county commission, 7 years on the budget, I've seen that. And even as my colleague here said, it was a great thing because we're growing and we got to provide those jobs. We don't need them going to Nashville. We need that money coming here. And with the growth with Google coming in, we got to provide high-tech jobs, and we got to provide incentives for them to come here. And I've been proud to be a part of that group to vote for them to come here.
Mr. Lee Irwin, your question goes to Mr. Hodges.
Mr. Hodges, how would you propose to stay connected with the residents of the 67th District, and more importantly, work to increase their involvement in the planning for the district's future, for the state's future?
Sure. You know, when I was on the county commission, I held town hall meetings. I would continue that because I just think it's important for people to be able to come and talk to their representative directly. You know, my contact information is always going to be available in public. You can call me by phone, text me, email me. So I like that direct line of communication to my constituents.
Mr. Vallejos.
Yes, I believe that town halls are essential. I believe communicating. I think Joe Pitts had that connection with the community. I also go to churches on a regular basis and speak there and hold different seminars there. But I think you go to the faith community, you go out there, and there may be people out there who don't have a faith connection. I would make sure that we have social media connection. I would make sure that we also have vital issues that are affecting our communities, not just parts of Clarksville, but all of Clarksville. I would provide a network for them to provide response to whether I should vote for it or not. Because here's what I know. I don't just want to be a vote. I want to be a voice.
Mr. Dawson.
The town halls are great. I support a town hall meeting, but I believe getting out there and actually walking and talking to the people of our community is one of our better ways. From the state level, we lack a lot in educating the people of our community, the region, through the town halls, through community organization meetings, through walking the streets and talking to people in any one of the businesses that we have in the local community. You find out and you can better educate the people out there. We use the technology to the best we can, but that person-to-person contact is very important to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to our closing comments, Mr. J. Alberto, you have the final question from our panelists today, and it goes to Mr. Tommy Vallejos.
Mr. Vallejos, we've heard all of your credentials and all of your credentials that are on the panel today. The one thing I want to ask is the why. What is motivating you to run for this office?
Well, I like that question. What's voted me is I've been involved in this community. I had a young lady that I buried earlier this year, and I knew her. She was 18 years old. She died of addiction. Because here's what happened. She had come out of a treatment clinic and felt like she had to go back, and that treatment clinic would not accept her. So she went, because she didn't have dirty urine, and shot some heroin in, and it had some fentanyl. Fentanyl is 70% of our deaths right now that contributes to it. And here's what I want people to know, that I want to help people, the voiceless, those who don't have a place to lay their head, but I also want to help each one that's in elected office accountable at the State House. Because here's what I know is I've been serving this community for over 20 years. And I just want them to know that I will represent them with the loudest voice, and I will stand. And I won't quit standing until I get an answer to help the people in my community. That's why I'm running.
Mr. Dawson.
To be honest, it's a lot of prayer. My wife and I have discussed this for the last 2 years, and finally came to the decision between ourselves and God. This was one of the things that we felt that we could benefit the people of our state and community and let them see that they count. They are the ones that are to be represented out there for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hodges.
Yes, so I'm from this community, and I love this community, and I want to continue serving this community. You know, we've had a representative in Joe Pitts that has served this community in a nonpartisan way, just caring about the constituents, holding his head down, and just doing what was best for the city of Clarksville and for the people of this community. And I just want to carry on that legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes the questions from our panelists. We now turn to the closing remarks from each of our candidates. They will be given in a reverse order from their opening comments. We will hear first from Mr. Tommy Vallejos.
Once again, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event, and also for Austin Peay, served on the board for the Hispanic Culture Center, and also, of course, for Leadership Clarksville for what it does, always bringing new ideas to this community. And once again, I'm Tommy Vallejos, and I'm running because I believe I'm an answer. I'm a different face and I'm a different look. I've been engaged in this community way before I ever got involved in politics. Some of you I've buried your kids, and some of you I've helped get out of gangs. Some of you I've helped with different issues. I've fed your kids. And when I got involved with politics, I became your voice. Now let me tell you something. When I retired from the Army 17 years ago, I became involved in this community. I took ownership of this community through the shelter, through going through all the aspects of helping people. But I also know that the work that needs to be done at the State House needs to come down here. We need to continue to build infrastructure. And I know that I can be that representative. I want to be that representative because I did it for Fort Campbell. I've helped many of the soldiers that have struggled, and I've fed them. And here's what I know is that if you're going to be the voice for this community, be the voice. Don't just be an occasional voice. And you see, here's what I know, is that I had a young man who I had to bury last year. He was a young gangbanger who didn't want to get out, and he didn't want to go on this journey. And no, today, I want you to join me on this journey. Join me on this journey because I want to live a dream. I'm humbled to serve you. From humble beginnings, losing 2 brothers and a stepfather to gang violence, 3 brothers to the penitentiary, and here I am today. How could that be possible? Because it's an America that we all believe in. It's a dream that we all dream of, and it's the democracy that we live in. These 2 gentlemen to the right, both veterans, served honorable, and that's what we like. People that serve honorable, and I want to serve you honorably. Follow me on this journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we hear closing comments from Mr. Jason Hodges.
So again, I want to thank the Chamber and Leadership Clarksville, which I was also a member of, for hosting today. I also want to thank the people of Clarksville for giving us an opportunity to speak to you. I won't be too long. I'll be brief about this. I hope and encourage you to check out my website, jasonhodges.org. Get my information, get my email address, and ask me any more questions that you might have that I didn't answer at this debate. Thank you to my opponents for showing up, and again, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak.
And thank you for those remarks. And then we hear last from Mr. John Dawson.
I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Leadership Clarksville, and everyone that is tuned in today, especially for this. I have gone through this now. I do not find it appropriate to make promises to anyone that cannot be held. That is, we owe it to our community, to our state and region, to represent the people that are out there, to be their voice. We cannot focus on the discord that our current political situation has provided us. That is what it is. We have to make the change for that. We can only do that through our continued support to each other and to the state. We have to get out and vote this year. We had one of the lowest voting turnouts in the state, if not the lowest. So your voice has to be heard through your vote. Make that happen, please. In closing, we have each been given a gift that we have, and that is the ability to serve others. This gives us character each day of our lives. As the representative for Tennessee's District 67, I would be more than humbled and proud to serve each one of the people of our community. That would be the best thing I could do. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to each of our candidates that we've heard from today, who will be on the ballot November the 6th for the Tennessee State House of Representatives for District number 67. Thank you to Mr. John Dawson, to Mr. Jason Hodges, and to Mr. Tommy Vallejos. And I want to say thank you for not only sharing your time and your thoughts, but also your willingness to serve this state in the House of Representatives here in Tennessee. I want to remind you that early voting takes place October the 17th through November the 1st. The location is at the Election Commission office at 350 Pageant Lane, Suite 404. If it's one recurring theme that we've heard from all of our candidates, it's what a gift it is to live where we live in this great state of Tennessee, in this great place called the United States of America. We've each been given this gift. We've also been given the responsibility of going and exercising our votes. We encourage you to do that, either in early voting or on November the 6th. I want to say thanks to our panelists as well, Mr. Jimmy Settle, Mr. Lee Irwin, and Mr. Jay Albritton. Once again, gentlemen, thank you very much. And also thank you to our timekeeper, Ms. Yvonne Pickering. Thanks also to the Mass Communications Department here at Austin Peay State University for helping to make this broadcast possible. And a special thank you goes out to the staff at Leadership Clarksville and your Clarksville Area Chamber of Commerce who made this forum possible. Until next time, I'm Van Stokes. Thank you for watching.